Episode 8 of the master plan is here, and we're continuing with that in-ground irrigation system, and we are going to drive it to completion. So we've got a couple things left to complete it. In the last episode, installed the distribution piping, all of the sprinkler heads, so the plumbing is done. We have to wire up a few zone valves, test it out, install our nozzles and our sprinkler heads, and adjust those, and we are done. Let's get to it. All right, I've got install on the heads and distribution piping complete. Got that all checked out. So one of the last things to do here is to wire up our valves for zones 4, 5, and 6. Because the other valves are behind that bush, I wasn't able to provide a good video on that, so we'll go through that now. First thing we got to do, just get our wires uncoiled here. They've got them pre-stripped for us, so that's nice. Then you can see, it's a little bit confusing because they've got no markings on these wires. There's no typical positive and negative, and that's really because it doesn't matter. This is simply using a solenoid in there to turn on and off the valve. So either one of these can be positive and negative, it doesn't matter. Here is our 4-conductor wire coming from our controller in the house. So that I laid in the trench with the water supply line coming up here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just trim this off a little bit. It's a little bit too long. Or on the other hand, maybe I'll just coil this up here, lay it on the ground underneath. First thing we have to do on our control wire here is remove this outer insulation to expose our individual wires. All right, these should look familiar from the video I did where I installed the controller. So we've got our white, that's what we designated as common. Then we have our red, green, and blue. So I'm gonna strip these back a little bit. And I'm gonna use these outdoor wire nuts. These are basically filled with grease to make them somewhat waterproof. Normally I like to use waterproof butt connectors, but this is a little bit of a specialty scenario where we have to, for the common at least, combine basically 4 wires together. So if we gather up a wire from each one of the valves here, we need to combine these 3 together with our one common. And as I said, it doesn't really matter which wire you grab from the valve. We just need to combine these. I like to give them a little pre-twist there. There we go, we've got our common together. Pretty simple. Then we just have to remember, so I did red, green, blue for 4, 5, 6. So we'll take 4, combine that with red, green for 5, and then blue for 6. All right, that's all there is to wiring it up. Next thing you want to do is just check these out. You can do that with water, obviously turning your timer on. The other thing, you can do it without water if you've got a remote, like a Wi-Fi connection. you can cycle it with your phone and just listen for a click. So pretty straightforward there. Now, as I said in my previous video, one of the reasons I went with the Rainbird 5000 sprinkler head, because with the box of 20 that I got on Amazon, they came each one with a full set of nozzles, and each case came with this adjustment tool. Now, this full set of nozzles here, you can see here are the regular nozzles from 1.5 up to 8 gallons per minute. And then some low angle, basically they shoot lower for windy areas, things like that, from 1 gallon per minute up to 3. So it's important to choose your nozzle for multiple reasons, but the amount of spray pattern. So what I did on my zones is in a 6 sprinkler head area, I know I've got about 30 gallons per minute. So if I targeted 3 gallons per minute per sprinkler head in that zone, I can easily accommodate that. So what that means, if I go with an average of 3, I just kind of count up the number of 180 degree heads or 360 heads and come out at a target of 3. So what that meant sometimes is that for 360 degree sprinkler heads, I'd put out 6 gallons per minute. Then for a 180 degree head, I would do 3 gallons per minute. And then if I had a 90 degree, that would be down here at 1.5. So that's the reason for the different gallons per minute. You don't want a sprinkler head that's only covering half of the spray pattern, putting out the same as a sprinkler head that's doing a full 360, because you'll get a lot more water per square foot on the 180 head. So that's that. The sprinkler head here itself is fairly easy to adjust, and we'll go through that and then do it in the field to show you how that works. All right, the sprinkler head spray pattern. So this goes from a minimum of 40 degrees, they say, to a complete 360. And this is actually pretty easy to adjust. So the first thing you want to do is set where it stops on the left-hand side. So to do that, you turn it all the way to the right, which this one already was. Turn it all the way to the left, and then you'll feel it stop. Once it hits the left, you can keep on turning, and basically where this is showing is where it will stop and then go back to the right. And that's the spray pattern there. I noticed all of these were defaulted to basically 180 degrees, so we'll go through that again. All the way to the left, and then to the right, that would be the stock spray pattern. To increase the amount of travel there, you use your adjustment tool and put it in the back here. You see there's a plus and minus. Turn it towards the plus, and that will extend basically the right stop of this. So we'll crank that down and show you here. If we go back, this left-hand stop stays in the same position, but when we rotate it through to the right, we've got basically a full 360 pattern there. To change out or put in the sprinkler nozzle, there is this hole here where you put your tool in, rotate 90 degrees, and then pull up. And this spring is pretty heavy on this, but you can see this is the area where you put your nozzle in. So for this one, we'll say we want a 3 gallon per minute nozzle. We take that and make sure the number is right side up. Fit that in the hole there and push it in place. Then up top here, if we put our adjusting tool in there, find the little screw, we need to crank down on that. And you can see this little screw comes down to hold that nozzle in place. Now this is the same screw that you use. This is the same adjustment location and screw that you use to set the spray radius. So if we continue to crank that down beyond what is required to simply hold the nozzle in place, you can see it starts coming down and will interrupt the spray coming out there and cause it to go a shorter distance. All right, that's all there is to adjusting this. Let's go do one that's in the ground and see if it makes sense. Now at first it's a bit overwhelming. I watched a few other videos at first, read the instructions. Once you do a couple, this is piece of cake. All right, we're at our first sprinkler head here. We're going to adjust. You can see it's kind of at an intersection between a flower bed and the driveway. So we needed to spray this edge of the driveway and then kind of out into the yard along this flower bed. So we need to adjust it so that it sprays here to over here, maybe 100 degrees, something like that. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is check the left stop. So to do that, we crank this all the way to the right. That releases the clutch mechanism there so we can turn it freely to the left without stripping the gears. And you can see there, there's an arrow pointing this way, so that's where the spray is. And then if we look down that, you know, we kind of visualize it's going in the right direction. That's where we want it to go. So we've got that set in its proper location. Maybe we could turn that a little bit further this way. Then crank it all the way to the right, and that's where it's going to stop spraying in the right-hand direction. If we take a similar look there, you can see it's going to spray along the driveway there, and maybe we can cut that corner on the driveway a little bit, so we'll increase that spray arc a little bit. To do that, we use our back screw here, use our adjustment tool. It is sometimes a little bit tricky to get it dropped down. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna give it just a little turn to the plus side there. So I'm gonna turn it back to our left stop. That stays the same. I'm gonna come back and go to the right one and notice that it increased that spray radius ever so slightly. And now we're just gonna cut that corner, and I think we're good there. The next thing we gotta do is put our nozzle in. This nozzle is in already, but what we do is go here, do a 90-degree turn, we can pull up the nozzle. This has been a few days since this is installed, and it rained, so the ground is set pretty well. But what I noticed when I was doing some of these the day after the install, you want to hold down on the overall housing while you pull up on this, because you're going to pull the whole thing out of the ground in that fresh dirt. But on this, and you can see there, even it came up a little bit. Our nozzle is in the front there, so grab it with one hand, pop your nozzle in, then adjust your screw down there to hold it in place. All right, I just turned the zone on here. You can see it's coming to life. And we can see our head popped up there and is making its way over to the left. Just getting air out of the system there. We'll see where it stops on its left-hand turn. All right, that's perfect. Stop just before that bush. And we'll wait till it gets back over to the right-hand side and see if we cut the corner along the driveway there too much or if it's good. I'd say if anything, it could go a little bit further there. So what I'm gonna do is just, while it's popped up here, put my adjustment tool in the back and just give a little turn to that right adjustment. Now we can kind of cheat it over there to see how far it's gonna go. So I'd say that's about perfect. Okay, that's how you adjust those sprinkler heads. So then you just have to go through every sprinkler head in each zone, put a nozzle in, and adjust the spray pattern. All right, so I've got all of these zones installed, nozzles put in, and sprinkler heads adjusted. This is zone 1. You can see I'm a bit ahead here on videos, and I've already done some sand capping on the front yard. But wanted to show you the sprinkler heads for zone 1 here. So it is rocking and rolling, and it's a pretty cool sight to see these pop on and throw the water down. So my layout worked pretty well. I'm happy with it. I do not have any dry spots, obviously, that I know about yet. Maybe something will occur after the fact here, but pretty darn good coverage with these Rainbird 5000s. They throw out pretty good. If anything, I've had to dial some back with a lower GPM nozzle and using that screw in the front to reduce spray radius. An example of that is the one on the left-hand side here. It was spraying out into the woods a little bit too much, so I had to throttle that one back. Also, this one here, I used a low angle nozzle so that those hanging baskets didn't get blasted by it. Now it kind of shoots under them, so that's a good use for some of those. All right, here is zone 2 coming alive. This one has the most sprinkler heads, so there's 9 sprinkler heads in this one. I do not have an issue with flow at all, so I'm glad of that. I've got about 30 gallons per minute, but I did use smaller GPM nozzles in all of these to make sure I had enough flow to make them work properly. But you can see here I've got one way over here, and then you know, going all the way back over there for the yard. So this is the biggest zone. Got some tricky geometry here, so I put this one with a very small throw here to get this narrow piece of grass here. You can see I've done some sand leveling here in the trenches and stuff I've started in this area. But again, very good coverage with these sprinkler heads. You can see it did rain a lot last night, so I don't need to be sprinkling. I'm just turning this on for a minute or so to show the coverage and capability of these. But overall, very pleased here, zone 2. Zone 3 coming alive here around the back of the house. I think I've got 6 heads on this one. Again, no concerns with coverage. These things adjusted very nice and provide a nice spray pattern. So zone 3 rocking and rolling. Zone 4 coming alive here. This is fed off of this remote zone valve bank there. You can see it's coming alive, runs along the side yard here, on the side of the garage. And again, throwing down water very well. You can see the biggest challenge with this install now is this trenching. I'd filled this in And I thought I did a pretty good job of mounding the dirt up because I knew it would settle, and still getting a lot of settling. So I got to go back through all of that. You can see that's pretty consistent. I did get a chance the other day to come back through here and rake it again. It looks like it's holding up good now. So I need to continue to do that with all this trenching. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's zone 4. All right, zone 5 coming alive. This is mostly made up of sprinkler heads that are on the edge of the woods and then spray back into the yard. Again, very happy with how that works out. You can see that's running along this edge. No problem with flow using, this one has like six sprinkler heads on it. I've got plenty of water, even though this remote station is probably 100 feet from water supply from the house. And then obviously all the distribution piping from that to the nozzles. That 1-inch distribution pipe, the pressure drop on that is fine, and it's serving this purpose quite well. So zone 5 working away there, throwing the water down. You can see I spaced these things at 25 to 30 feet apart. They're easily throwing water to each other, providing that good coverage. My last zone here coming alive, zone 6. In the side yard here, out to the front, down to the cul-de-sac. And again, this is the longest run probably of the tied with zone 2 for the distribution piping. Again, no issues with flow in this. Takes a little bit when you first turn it on to get the water out of the air out of the lines, but once that's done in the first 30 seconds, it just works away there. Pretty cool sight, satisfying. Again, one of those long-term things. I don't need it right now. I'm just turning this on to show you how these work. It rained quite a bit last night, but when I need it, this will be awesome. I have been keeping, I threw some grass seed down here and I didn't even cover it, but I've been watering for a few minutes twice a day just to keep this wet. And you can see I've got some, I think that's probably ryegrass coming up already, seedlings. So that's working out good. Makes life so much easier than dragging a sprinkler and hose around. Can just click it right from my phone. So mission accomplished there. All right, that wraps up the in-ground irrigation install. It was a pile of work, but now reflecting on it that it's all done, you know, doesn't seem like as big of a deal like anything. Very happy to be done with it. It's going to enable cool things in the future here, such as, you know, lawn renovation, which you saw a sneak peek of there in zone 1, has already started. So I'm very curious to see how that enables the results of, you know, killing off a portion of the land and reseeding and getting good germination with a different grass species. One other thing I wanted to comment on is so far I've been very happy with my controller here. You can see this is a Beehive from Orbit. It allows control through your smartphone or computer, I suppose. I've just used the app on your smartphone to control. The other cool thing it has is it monitors local weather. If it rains, it automatically delays watering, things like that. So far I'm very happy with it. We'll see long-term reliability and stuff like that. But I definitely like that over putting the additional, you know, soil moisture sensors and things like that, rain sensors. That stuff doesn't, again, the more sensors and things like that you add, just your reliability goes down the tube, and you're having to troubleshoot those more than just having it work. So I think that is a cool thing, for this to be connected to the internet and just monitor local weather and rainfall and adjust according to that. So far pleased with that. One more project off the list. Happy to have in-ground irrigation. One great project done. It was a ton of work, so I took 2 days off of work, and then used the rest of the 3 work evenings and a weekend day to finish it. So total it took 6 days, 2 of those days off. So all in all, not that big of a deal. I am still have finishing work to do on some of these trenches where it's settled in there, but overall, mission accomplished. Thanks for joining me. Adios.